Hey everyone, this is Ryan King. So I recently got a comment from one of my viewers and they were wondering if I could make a video on how to do green screening in Blender. So that's what I'm going to show you in this tutorial so that you can go anywhere you want. Yeah. Or you can go somewhere like this. Woo, this is nice. Or you can go somewhere like this. Whew, this is nice, but it's getting kinda cold. Let's go back to the beach. Huh? Ah! Oh, whew. That was a little too far. Alright, so now that I've shown you something cool that you can do with green screens, let's jump into Blender. Alright, let's get started with the tutorial. So we're going to start out by going to Blender's video editor and just video editing the part of the video that I want to use for the tutorial. So I'm going to scroll on the workspaces and then click on the video editing tab. If you don't have this, you can click on plus and then go to video editing and click on video editing. Now, if you don't know how to do video editing in Blender and you want to learn how, I have made a complete tutorial series on how to do video editing in Blender. There will be a card up on the screen and also a link in the video description to my video editing tutorial series. Hopefully you haven't filmed your green screen footage yet, but if you have, that's okay. But I did want to give you a few tips on how to successfully film your green screen shots, because really how you film your green screen shots is super important. It's probably the most important thing, which is going to decide whether your green screen shot is successful or not. The first tip is pretty obvious, but it's don't wear green colors. Now, if your actor is wearing a lot of green colors or you have green props or something in the scene, or if you have a different color, you could use that. You don't actually need to use a green screen. If you have like a blue sheet or just any color really, it doesn't actually matter. The color just needs to be consistent and the rest of the scene needs to not have any green on it. So like if I was wearing a green shirt, that would be really bad and my green shirt would probably disappear when I was doing the color keying. But if your character is wearing green, for instance, you could use a blue screen or something else. Really, the color actually doesn't matter. It just needs to be consistent. Okay, my second tip, this is like really important, which is good, even lighting. So I've found that lighting is the most important factor to having a successful green screen shot. So you can see here, this is pretty good. You can see that like here to here to here, the green color is pretty similar. It works better if the color is as similar as possible. So you can see here, there are some problems. Like right here, there's kind of a dark shadow here. There's also some little lines right here, like some creases. So this isn't good, but it was good enough to pass. But if you have a lot of dark shadows or something, then it's going to be a lot harder to key. So how I set this up is I had the window was on this side and it was coming into the scene. And then I also have two lights. I'll add a video showing the light that I'm using. I bought those. It was a pack of 2 on Amazon. I'll leave the link in the video description if you want to buy the same ones that I'm using. And they are affiliate links, but it won't cost you any extra money if you purchase something through that link. So I had 2 lights. I had one on the left side of me and then one over the right side. And then also I had a lamp in this room. So the lamp was kind of more near the window, but the window light is really helping because it's a really nice big light and it was a somewhat sunny day. So lots of light was going to be streaming in. But if it's evening or it's dark, then you're going to need to have some really nice big lights. Those little lights that I used, they really wouldn't help if it was going to be dark. So you'd probably need to buy some bigger lights. I found that daylight is super helpful because daylight it's really bright and it's a very even light. So I had a nice big window, the light was coming in, so that's super helpful. Okay, my third tip is to use a high frame rate. Why you want to have a higher frame rate if you can is because let me just show you, like right here, you can see there's this blurring here. Now, the higher frame rate that you have, there's going to be less and less blur. If you're recording your video in like 24 frames per second and you're moving your hand along the scene, actually, you can probably see it here. So my screen recording software, OBS, is doing green screening in real time. If I just go like this, you can start to see on the corners, on the little edges of my fingers, you can start to see that green color because when something is blurred on the green screen, it's not going to work as well. So that's why using a higher frames per second is going to be better. Okay, and my fourth tip is to eliminate wrinkles and folds. Now you can see once again, I didn't do the best job, but it was good enough to pass. But you can see here, like there's a wrinkle here and it's a bit darker. Also right here, there's some wrinkles. Now these aren't too bad, but if you have like a really big fold or a really big wrinkle, there's probably gonna be a shadow and that can cause problems. Okay, now my fifth tip is to keep your subject behind the green screen. Now this might seem obvious, but let me just show you where I actually didn't really do this. You can see I threw my sunglasses aside and the sunglasses go out of the shot. So this would be pretty hard. What I would have to do is mask around the sunglasses, which you can see they're really blurred so it wouldn't look good. But like for instance, if I moved my hand out here and I wanted to still have that hand not like disappear on the edge, then I would have to add a mask and mask around my hand. Try to keep your subject behind the green screen. And my sixth tip is try to set up the lighting so that there aren't any shadows from the subjects going onto the green screen. So this shot was pretty good. There weren't very many shadows. I think down here there might be a little bit of shadow, but it's pretty good. It's not too bad. But if you have like one main light like right behind it and you're just shooting the light right on me, then you're probably going to see a big shadow right here. So try to have multiple lights so that there isn't very much shadow on the green screen. Okay, and with that said, go ahead and film your green screen shots, and remember, lighting is super important. I think lighting is probably the most important thing. So I'm first just going to drag from my file browser the video that I'm going to be using and just drop it in right here. So I'm going to bring this end value way up right here. Now I don't want the video and audio to get moved out of sync from each other. So with both of these selected, I'm going to shift select this, and then press Ctrl G, and that's going to bring them together as a meta strip. All right, so let's just play through this, and I'm just going to get the part that I'm actually going to use for this video. So once I found the spot where I want it to start, I'm going to press K to cut this, and then I can just select this side, press X and delete it. So here I am putting on the sunglasses at the beach. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to have it end right there for this tutorial. So I'm going to cut this and delete this side. So let's move this over now. So just select this strip, press G, move it to the very starting, move it to frame 1 on the timeline. Okay, and then let's go to the very end here and just move your timeline 1 behind it, because your timeline, the little blue line here, it's actually looking at the frame ahead of it. So just move it. It's going to look like it's 1 frame behind. And then you can press Control End, or you can also just set the end frame right here. So my end frame is 762. All right, so now if we play through this, it's just going to have the spot that we want. So let's save this file now. So I'm going to go over here and just click on File and click on Save As. Okay, and I'm just going to save this in a folder as videoediting.blend, and I'll save that. Okay, so now I want to render out this video sequence to pictures. And why I use pictures is because I just find that it works a little bit better. I have had cases where there can be a little bit of glitches or problems, because what we're going to do is we're going to open up a new Blender file, go to the compositor, and add in the frames. So I'm going to use JPEG because JPEGs are less file size. So I'm just going to change that to JPEG. Okay, so now that that's done, let's just go here to the output. I'm going to set an output for where I want to save these images. So just click on the little file right here. And then in the folder where I'm saving all of my stuff, I'm going to open a new folder or add a new folder. I'm going to call it frames. We'll go inside that folder, and then you could have no name for the images, and it's just going to name it as like 001, 002. Okay, so then just go File and save this again, and then you can press Control F12 to render out the video into images, or you can go Render and click on Render Animation. So in my file browser here, I can go into the frames folder, and you can see it's rendering these all out into frames. Okay, so now that I've rendered these out to images, I'm just going to save this file again, and then I'm going to open up a new file. So I'll go File and New, and just open up a general. So what I'm going to do is scroll over here and go to the Compositing tab, and then I'll hit Use Nodes, and you can see here there's a Render Layers and Composite. If you want to add a 3D background to the back of your character, then you're going to want to keep this Render Layers node. I'm not going to actually be doing that in the final thing, but I am going to show you how to do that in this tutorial. What I want to do now is I want to add in that image sequence that we just rendered out. So I'll press Shift A right here. I'm going to search for image, and then I'll click on Open. And then I'm going to navigate in this file browser to the place where I have the images, and I'm going to press A to select all of them. You might need to double tap A and then click on open image. And now you can see it's added in this as an image sequence. And you can see it's added in the correct amount of frames, and the start frame is 1, which we want. Now, another thing that we need to remember is the resolution. We need to make that resolution the same as your video. So definitely go ahead and do that. And then also the frame rate, of course, if the frame rate's messed up, then it's going to be really slow or really fast. So I'm going to change this to 59.94 frames per second because that was the frame rate of my other Blender file where I did the video editing. So I'm going to be using a Blender add-on, which is built into Blender. It's called the Node Wrangler. If you don't have it, then you can go Edit, Preferences, and then on the Add-ons tab, you can search for Node Wrangler. So just select that, check mark it, and then you can just close this. Okay, and then what the Node Wrangler does is it allows you to preview different nodes. So if I hold down Control and Shift and click on a node, it's going to add that backdrop behind it. You can see here's the viewer node. And then also if you're not seeing this, you might need to click on the backdrop right here to enable that. Now your image might be too big. So if it's too big, you can press V to zoom out and Alt V to zoom in. And then if you want to move around your background image, you can hold down Alt and middle click, and that way it's going to move around. So I'm just going to V to zoom this out, Alt and middle click, and just move it into the center. Okay, and now if I move around here, you can see it's going to update the background image for us. Also the frames here, there's 762 frames. So on the end here, I'm just going to type in 762. And then scroll out, and now it's going to show the entire thing. Okay, so let's do the color keying now. So what I'm going to do is press Shift A, and I'm going to search for the keying node. So right here, here it is, keying node. I'm going to add this in and just drop it right here. Now what I want to do is I want to set the color that it needs to key. So right here on the key color, I can click on this, and then I can click on the eyedropper, and then I'm going to click on the background image. You can see it's already done a pretty good job, but there's still a little bit of work that we need to do because you can see right here, it hasn't quite gotten away all of it, and there's a little bit of stuff on the edge of me here. So one really big thing that I found helps is making it either darker or lighter. You can see if I make it darker, it just like takes away a lot of the green screen. If you make it too dark, it's going to start to cut out things. So definitely don't make it too dark. And then also your green screen might be a bit more blue than you think, or it might be other colors. So what you can do is just kind of click around the color that it's selected and try to see if it works better. I usually find that making it a bit more blue actually works better. So you can see that's kind of an aqua dark color. And then there actually might be little glitches and problems that you may not be able to see. So what I'm going to do is actually add in a background image so that we can keep on tweaking it and improving it. So what I'm going to do is press Shift A. I'm going to search for an alpha over node. Okay, so I'll drop the alpha over node right into the viewer right here. I'm just going to give a little more space, and I'll just bring the compositing up to the viewer. And then what I'm going to do is plug the image of the render layers right up to the bottom one here. Now we haven't rendered anything, so I'm going to actually just make a little scene. But if you have something in mind, you can add that in and then render it out. So what I'm going to do is just delete the cube, and delete the lamp. I think I'll just add like a monkey head, maybe just a couple monkey heads. Definitely you don't have to do what I'm doing, really just do whatever you want for the background. And if you don't want to have a 3D rendered background, if you want to have some kind of video or image behind it, then definitely go ahead and do that, and I'll show you how to do that later in the video. So now what I'm going to do is just render this out, and then once this is rendered out, I'll go back to compositing, and you can see now the render layers actually has something for it to preview. Now let's save this file. I actually forgot to save it. So let's go File and Save As. And I'm going to save this as like color key.blend. Just save that with all the other files. Okay, now what I need to do is I need to set up this alpha over node so that it knows where to show the background and where to show me. So I have me right here. If I Control Shift and click, there is the video of me. If I Control Shift and click on the render layers, you can see that's the render layers. So let's Control Shift and click on the alpha over node. What I'm going to do is this image here, I'm going to put this image to the bottom one. Okay, so now it's displaying the video, and then this one, the render layers, I want this to be behind me, so I'm going to plug this in. And then I need to tell the alpha over node where the background's going to be and where I am going to be. So what you do is if you Control Shift and click twice, it's going to show this matte. It's going to preview that. This matte is the data that's going to tell the Alpha Overnode where the background is and where I am. So you take this matte and you plug it into the factor here. Now if I Control Shift and click on this, you can see now the monkey heads is behind me. Now you can see here that there's all this other background stuff. There's like the bookshelf and the wall here, but this is really easy to take out. So to take this out, what I'm going to do is just give myself a little bit more room here. What we're going to do is we're going to add a mask, and then we're going to tell it to remove everything that's in the mask. So what I'll do is press Shift A. I'm going to search for the mask node, drop it in here. I'm going to plug the mask up to the garbage. So you see this, it says garbage matte. And when you plug something up to the garbage matte, it's going to remove all of that area. So now we need to make a mask because right now we don't have any mask. So what I can do is just scroll over here. I can click on the plus here, go to VFX and go to masking. Now I'm going to just drag this up because I don't need any of that stuff. And now this open here, I'm going to open up that video file. So I'm going to hit open, go to the frames, and then we will double tap A to select all of them and click on open clip. So now that we've opened the clip, if I just move around here, you can see it's working great. What we need to do is we need to add a mask. So I'm going to click on new here to add a new mask, and then I can just hold down Control and click and place the mask and go all the way around and just cut out the spots where there's like the bookshelf and the wall. Just go around here. Okay, so now that we've set that up, you can see I stay within the mask. What I'm going to do is go back to compositing, the compositing tab, and then I'm going to click and add in the mask that we made. Now, if I Control Shift and click back on the Alpha Over, you can see that I disappear, and that's because we masked me out. What I want to do is flip that around, so instead of masking me out, it masks everything else out. So there's a really easy way to do this. You just press Shift A, search for an invert node, select the invert node and drop it in here, and that way it's going to convert this. So right now it's white and then black on the outside, but the invert node is going to make it black and white on the outside. So now you can see everything else is gone except me. So it's looking pretty good, but there are some little glitches right here. You can see that there's some little bits of glitches and things right here. So I'm going to show you how I fix this. So there's a lot of different settings here that you can play around with. I'm going to show you what I found works best for me. So this pre-blur here, if I just Control and Shift and click on this matte, the pre-blur, you can see if I make it a lot bigger, it's going to blur around those edges. I find that maybe if you just turn this up to like 2 or something, it can help just a little bit to blur out the edges. You can see now it just looks a little bit smoother and a little bit nicer. This post blur here, it's going to add another blur after you've already alpha channeled it out. So if you just want to turn this up to 1 or 2 or something, it can help just to make it a little bit better. And then also playing around with this color right here helps a lot. But what I found to be the best thing is to actually edit the matte, because really the matte is the main thing that we're going to be using. We just want it to be black everywhere else and then white where the subject is. So what we can do is we can add a color ramp to this and play around with it to make it sharper. So what I'll do is I'll press Shift A. I'm going to search for color ramp, grab the color ramp, and we're going to put it in between the matte and the factor. So now if I Control Shift and click on this, you can see what it's doing. And now we can just play around with this to sharpen it up. So right here, if I zoom in, let me just zoom in here, you can see that there's some little bit of gray areas. To remove that, I can actually bring this up. Basically what it's doing is it's kind of adding a brightness and contrast almost. It's kind of making everything more contrasty when you bring those two values together, this little white tab and the black tab. So I can just drag this up. Now if I Control Shift click on this, it looks way better. Like that is significantly better. And then also if you bring the black value, that kind of cuts out the edge a little bit. Now you can see if I zoom in here, there still is a little bit of green. You can see there's a little bit of green there. So something that I'm going to do to get away that green is I'm actually going to edit the image that we have right here. So this image is being plugged into this image right here. What I'm going to do is actually remove the green from that image. So I'll press Shift A. And I'm going to search for a hue correct. So grab this hue correct. We want to plug it into the one that's going into the alpha over. So just drop it right there. And then to remove the green color, I'm going to Control Shift and click on this hue correct so that you can see what it's doing. You can grab this little dot here and pull down the green, and that's going to take away the green color. So do it for both of these. And you can see that what it does is it just finds the green color and just removes it. So it desaturates it until it's just gray. And then also blue is similar to green, and there isn't any extra blue really, maybe a little bit on my face. But what I'm going to do is just remove some of that blue. Don't remove too much because you can see now my shirt is starting to look gray. So now if I Control Shift and click back on this, you can see, let me just zoom in here. Now that green outline is way less. You can barely see it, or it's not there at all. So if you want to have a 3D animation behind the character, you can do this. You can have it render out the image and then composite it and then throw that character on top there. If you want to have a 3D image, then you're not going to want it to render out the same image every single time because it's a flat image. So what you'd want to do in that case is just render out that image, save it somewhere on your computer, and then add it back in as an image. So you can just click on image and then open it up. And that way it won't have to render out the 3D image every single time. So now I'm going to show you what you want to do if you want to add in a stock video or image. So on pixabay.com, I've downloaded this free video right here. It's this snow falling. What I'm going to do is add this in, and then you're just going to have to delete this and delete this, and then drag this image into here instead. And you can see now it has that video in the background. And the frames here, you're going to have to turn this up. So just turn it up to a really big value. And now you can see if I move this, the snow is going to be moving in the background. But there's actually a third way which I prefer. What I'm going to do is just select this and delete it. And then right over here on this image, instead of adding some kind of video or picture, I'm going to click on the color here. I'm going to go over to RGB right here. And this A here, this stands for alpha. So this is the transparency. I'm going to turn this all the way to 0 so that it's transparent. And then you can see there's a little outline around me. I'm going to change that to black so that you can't see the outline. And now you can see there's just me and then the transparency. What I'm going to do is I'm going to render these out to images with a transparent background, and then I'm going to go back to the video editing file and add this in, and then I can add a video underneath it. And I find this a lot more intuitive and a lot more easy because you have a lot more control of what you want to add in the background. So what I have to do is I have to, right here, it has to be PNG because JPEGs don't have the transparent data in them. So you're going to have to make it PNG. And then also right here, BW, that's just black and white. So it'll only render it as black and white. RGB, that's red, green, and blue. So that's just the color. RGBA, that's red, green, blue, and alpha. So you need to change it to alpha or else it's not going to render out the transparency and it's just going to render it out to like black or something. And then we're going to have to set an output for these images. So I'm just going to click right here. And then I'm going to make a new folder. I'm going to call this like alpha frames. So then go inside that folder and click on accept. And then I'll just save this again. So go file and save. Now if I press Control F12 to render it out, or you can go render animation, it's going to render these out to images. So let me just hop over to my file browser and you can see what it's doing. Okay, and here it is. So you can see it's rendering these all out. And you can see it has those checker marks there. That means it's going to be transparent behind it. And while this is rendering, I just wanted to say that if you'd like to help support what I do have a Patreon and I also have a Gumroad store. And on my Patreon and Gumroad store, you can get my 3D models and assets, and you can also get my tutorial files. So those are some great ways to help me out if you'd like to support me. But even just following me on YouTube and watching my videos is a great way to help out. So thank you for your support. All right, and it just finished rendering and I'm blissfully looking up in the air. I don't even know. Okay, so I'm going to save this again, go file and save, and then I'm just going to go file and open and just open up that video editing.blend. So here we are back in the video editing. What I'm just going to do is move over here, move over to the first frame. Then I'll press Shift A and I'm going to add image sequence. Then just navigate to the alpha channel frames that you have. You can double tap A to select all of them and click on add image strip. Now, if I hide this with H, you can see it's fully transparent. So now what I can do is just add in video files underneath it. So I'm just going to click on the purple one, which is the alpha channel frames. I'll press G to move this and then middle click with my mouse wheels to pop it up 2 layers. I just want to pop it up 2 layers, and then I can just go to my file browser and I'm going to go to those Pixabay images that I have, I'm going to add in this beach one. So I'm just going to drag and drop this image here. It's actually a video, and then it doesn't actually have any sound effects. So I'm just going to press X and delete that. Now you can see here that it looks really fast because the frame rate wasn't the same. This video you can see is 59.94, but the Pixabay video was probably only like 30 frames per second. So if you want to learn how to convert your videos, you can use a program called Handbrake. It's a program that I use and it works really well. I have a tutorial on that. There's going to be a link in the description, and also there'll be a card there where you can watch that tutorial. There's also a quick and dirty way to change the frame rate of a video. So this video here is too slow. So what I'm going to do is just select it, press Shift A, and I'm going to search for a speed control. Then I can just click on the handle here, pull it out, and you can see now when I play it, it's going to be a lot slower, and that looks a lot better. And then I want to save space and just make it a little bit easier to work with. So I'm going to click on the speed, shift click on the beach, and then Control G, and that'll make it a meta strip. So now I don't really need to think about that. They're just connected. Now I can put this in the very center here, and then I'm going to fade between the green screen room, then the beach, and then go back to the green screen room. I'm going to Alt H this now, and now I can just play through this. So right here, right when I snap, that's when I want it to fade. So I'm just going to name these so that you aren't very confused. So I'm going to call this beach. I'm going to call this alpha. And then I'm going to call this raw video. And this raw video, if I tab into here, it also has the audio. Okay, so now what I want to do is fade in between the raw video to this and then have the beach underneath it. So I can click on this raw video and move it up so that it's above the beach. And then what I'm going to do is find the place where he starts to snap. So I want it to start fading right here. So I'm going to press K on the beach to cut that. So now the beach is just starting when it needs to fade. Then I'll keep on moving. I'm using the arrow keys to move per frame. And then I want it to be fully faded right here. So now what I'll do is click on the raw video and cut that. And then I can keep on going. Now you can see here that the beach actually ends too quick because he snaps right over here. So what I'm going to do is click on the beach, tab into it, and then click here and pull this out a little bit longer. So it will be a little bit slower, but you're not going to really notice anything. And then after that, I will tab back into here and just select this and drag it out. And now what I need to do is just cut it so that it ends when I want it to be fully back to the original room. So I'm just going to go along here, find the spot when it's fully back right here. So I'm going to cut this with K and then just X and delete that little place right there. And then I want to find the spot where I'm just starting to snap. So I'm just starting to snap right here. So I'm going to click on this, press K to cut it. And then I can just move this down here. And why I'm moving this down here is because this still has the audio where I'm talking. So I need to still have it play. I don't just want to delete it because then there won't be any audio right here, like when I say, yeah. So I'm just going to move that underneath it. Okay, so now I have the raw video. You can see it's playing. And then I'm going to have it fade to the beach right here. And then right here, I'm going to have it fade back to the video. Now, one more thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the beach right here, click on this and then press K to cut it. And then go over here to the very end of the beach, press K to cut that. So now that I've cut these, I don't need the alpha channel when I'm actually in the room. So I'm going to press H to hide this and H to hide this. So now what I need to do is fade out the raw video. And that way, once it's fully faded out, you're going to see this scene right here. So I'm going to go to the very starting of the raw video, and this opacity here, this is where I'm going to fade it. So I'm going to animate this. So I'll move my mouse over here, press I with it turned to 1. Then I'm going to move to the very last frame when it's fully faded out. I'm going to change this to 0, and then I'll press I again. And now if you go here, you can see it's slowly fading out. Now you can see it fades out to transparent and then it suddenly goes to the beach. That's because this replace here on the blend value, we need to change this to alpha over so that it uses an alpha channel. So now when I do this, you can see the background fades away and the beach fades in. And then to fade back, I'm going to do the same exact thing, but reversed. So right here on the raw video, I'm going to turn this to 0. And then move my mouse over and press I, and then I'll move all the way over to when I want it to be fully back. Move this up to 1, and then move my mouse over and press I, you can see that it's has the checkered marks here. I need to click on the replace and change it to alpha over, and now it's fading back to the room. All right, 2 more things that we're going to do before this video is done. One thing that I'm going to do is color correct me so that when I go to the beach, the colors are going to kind of change so that it looks more realistic, because, you know, in the room, there's like the green color and there's some other colors, but when I'm here, there's the big blue sky and there's the beach. So the colors would be a little bit different. Like if you're outside and it's a really sunny day, then it's going to be a lot brighter. There might be some blue light coming because of the sky, but then if you're in a room, it might be kind of dark and yellow kind of colored. And then after that, I'm going to show you how to fade in between 2 different places. So in the video that I made at the starting, I had the beach, then I had like a fall kind of scene, then I had the snow. I'm going to show you how to do that. It's pretty easy though. So we'll go ahead and just cover that after this. All right, so what I'm going to do is go right here to the starting, and right here on the modifiers, I'm going to click on add strip modifier, and I'm going to add the color balance. And you can see here's the different colors. So there's lift, gamma, and gain. I want to animate all of these. So I'll move my mouse over the color and I'll press I, and you can see now it has that little yellow thing around it. That way we've added a keyframe. So I'm going to do the same thing. So I, and that inserts keyframes. Then I'm going to move over to where it's fully the beach, and then I can edit these colors and make it look more like I'm actually at the beach. So I'm going to have it a bit lighter because there's more color, and I'm also going to have it a bit blue. So just play around with it. It should probably be pretty subtle still, but it will make it look more realistic. So I'm just going to make it kind of like a blue color and brighter because there's a lot of blue color. And then this bottom one here, you don't need to animate all of these, but I find that I like kind of using all of them. Okay, so that looks better. You can see that if I zoom in here, it's a lot more blue and lighter colored. I think I'm going to make the gamma a little bit darker so that there still are some shadows, but then I can turn the other ones up to make it a little bit brighter. Okay, so now make sure you're at the ending where you want it to be fully transitioned, and then press I, and I. And now if you switch between these, you can see it's kind of a yellowish color, and then if you move over, it's much more blue. And so that'll help to sell that effect. And then you're going to do the same thing at the end here. So I'm going to move all the way over to when it's just fully the beach. I'm going to add more keyframes because I want it to stay those colors. So I'll press I, and I. And then let's just go back all the way over here. And then to change it back to its default color, what you need to do is select this, and then go to the RGB right here and change each of these values to 1. So just type in 1, and then go here, change these all to 1. So just type in 1, so it should be right in the middle. And then this one too, 1, oops, 1, 1, and 1. So now you can add keyframes once again, but make sure you're at the very end here. So press I, and I. And now when I go back, it's going to transition. And then for this tutorial, I'm not going to cover adding in sound effects, but if you want to, you can just like download a sound effects. In this case, you could download like a beach sound effect. I use a website called freesound.org. So if you want to go to freesound.org and type in like beach and then download a beach sound effect, you could add that in here, and that would also make it feel more realistic. Okay, so I'm just going to render this out now to a final video. I'm going to click on this, use FFmpeg video, and then over here on these settings, for the container, I like to use MPEG 4. The video, I like to use H.264. And then the audio, I usually use AAC or MP3. And then I say this in all my tutorials, but if you're going to use AAC, then YouTube won't be able to process the video if you're uploading it to YouTube. So if you want to upload to YouTube, I would say use MP3. If you're using a Mac computer or you're using some kind of Apple device like an iPhone, an Apple iPhone, or a Mac computer, then the MP3 format won't work and you won't be able to hear the sound. So I usually use AAC, but then you can also use MP3 if you want to upload it to YouTube. And then just set an output right here. So I can just click right here. And then in this folder, I can just call it like final video 1 and just accept that, and then go render and render animation. So one last thing I want to show you in this video is how to fade from one background to another background. So what I'm going to do is just move over here, and you can see the raw video. I'm not going to be fading back to that, so I'm going to just delete this. And then I want to alt hide this, so I'll press Alt H to unhide it. so that I have that. And now I just need to add another background right here. And then on Pixabay, I downloaded another video, so I'm just going to add the snowfall right here. Let me just select the audio and delete it because it actually didn't have any audio. I'll drag this down here. And now what I need to do is I just need to fade between this to this. So I need to give this a little bit more room. So I'll press G, select these two and move them up so that I have a little bit more room here. Because what I need to do is click on this, shift click on this, and then press Shift A. I'm going to go to transition and then click on gamma cross. That way you can see if I move here, it's going to move from the beach to the snowy forest. And then also there's no audio, so I'm just going to need to drag this out. Just click on the handle here, pull it out so that you can actually hear my voice behind it. So there we go, that is the finished tutorial on how to do green screening in Blender. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Also, if you do this tutorial, you can leave a link with your result and I will check it out. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in a future video.